A protest in the Indian-occupied Kashmir region of Ladakh demanding statehood has turned violent, with demonstrators clashing with police. Protesters reportedly set fire to a paramilitary vehicle and the office of India's governing BJP, escalating tensions in the region. On Wednesday, police responded by firing tear gas and charging at demonstrators with batons. Dozens of people were injured during the clashes, with some residents claiming that several of the injured were in critical condition. Authorities have not released an official figure, but local activist Sonam Wangchuk, who has been on a hunger strike to demand more power for the region, told Indian media that between 3 and 5 people are believed to have been killed by police gunfire. However, these casualty figures have not been independently verified. In the aftermath of the violence, authorities imposed strict restrictions in Leh district, the capital of Ladakh. The assembly of more than 5 people was banned, as police tried to prevent further escalation. The violence erupted after youth groups called for a shutdown of Leh, intensifying an ongoing movement for greater constitutional and political rights. The demonstrations are part of a broader campaign in Ladakh demanding statehood and constitutional safeguards from the Indian government. Protesters want autonomy over land ownership, agriculture, and local governance. At the heart of their demand is the inclusion of Ladakh under the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. This provision grants special protections to tribal regions, giving local communities the power to decide how their lands and resources are managed. The roots of the unrest go back to August 2019, when Narendra Modi's government revoked the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. Ladakh, once part of the state, was carved out as a separate federally governed territory. Since then, the region, home to both Buddhist and Muslim communities, has been directly occupied by New Delhi without a locally elected legislature. This shift has fueled concerns among locals about losing control over land rights, environmental safeguards, and cultural protections. Sonam Wangchuk, who had been on a hunger strike for nearly 2 weeks to push for these demands, called off his protest after Wednesday's clashes. Expressing regret, he said, "My message of peaceful path failed today. I appeal to the youth to please stop this nonsense. This only damages our cause." Wangchuk has consistently called for peaceful resistance, emphasizing that violence could undermine the movement. Local authorities have moved quickly to curb unrest. In a public notice, Leh's district administrator Romil Singh Donk banned demonstrations, public gatherings, and inflammatory speeches. Activists and political leaders in Ladakh, however, accuse the central government of ignoring their concerns. They point out that several rounds of talks between Ladakhi representatives and New Delhi over the past few years have ended without progress. The next round of discussions is scheduled for October 6th, but public confidence remains low. The protests highlight Ladakh's growing frustration with what many see as New Delhi's lack of attention to the region's unique needs. Protesters argue that without constitutional safeguards, Ladakh risks exploitation and erosion of its cultural and environmental identity. They are seeking elected local bodies with decision-making powers to protect tribal areas and ensure that Ladakhis themselves determine the region's development. Ladakh is also of immense strategic importance to India. It shares a long and sensitive border with China. In 2020, deadly clashes between Indian and Chinese soldiers in Ladakh's Galwan Valley resulted in fatalities on both sides and strained bilateral ties. Although India and China have recently taken steps to ease tensions, the memory of those confrontations remains fresh, adding to Ladakh's geopolitical significance. The recent violence has underlined the fragile situation in Ladakh. While the protests reflect genuine local demands for statehood and constitutional protections, the clashes show the risks of escalation when such demands remain unaddressed. as the October 6th talks approach, the central government faces increasing pressure to engage with Ladakh's concerns in a meaningful way.